Hello guys. So in this first lecture of the section 3, which is loops in C++, we'll discuss about different types of loops that we come across while programming in C++. Okay. So loops are particularly used for, executing a piece of code again and again. Okay. So there are particularly three types of loops in C++. They are, first one is the for loop. Okay, for loop. Okay, another one, the second one is the while loop. While loop. And lastly we have do while loop. Do while loop in C++. Okay, now before getting in depth with all of these loops and how do they work, we need to know what a loop does. Okay, so what happens is, while programming, sometimes there is a need of, to execute a statement or a number of statements. Okay, either a single statement or a number of statements again and again. Okay, so to perform this function, loops are used. Okay, now uh, let's start with the for loop. Okay, so for loop. Now the syntax of the for loop goes something like this. Okay, so syntax. Okay, so for, okay, then there will be a parenthesis. Inside this parenthesis there will be uh, initialization. Okay, then semicolon, then there will be condition. Okay, and then expression, semicolon, and then expression. Okay, and then the scope of the for loop starts. Okay, within this block, for the block of for loop, there will be some statements. Okay, and these statements are executed again and again until a value of the variable that will initialize in this section reaches the condition. Okay, so what I'm telling here is, let me give you an example. Okay, so let's say we write something like this. Okay, so we write a for loop for, let's say we take a value int x is equals to, no, let's say we only declare it. Okay, we do not initialize it, we do not initialize a value to it, we just declare a variable x. Okay, now let's say we initialize it a value inside the for loop. So we give it a value for x, we give it a value 1 initially. Okay, now the condition will be, let's say x is less than 10. Okay, okay, and now let's write the expression. So expression would be something like x plus plus. Okay, we are trying to post increment this. Okay, and let's say from here the block of for loop starts. So let's say we are trying to we write a single statement inside it. Let's say we write hey here. Okay, and then we end this statement, and then we finally end the for loop. Okay, now what happens is, for the first time, okay, the value was, the value of x was 1, right? We initialized it value x, a value of x as 1. Okay, so when now we go to the now we go to the condition and we check whether the condition is true. So x is less than 10, 1 is less than 10 for the first case. Okay, where the value of x is 1 initially, right? So x is less than 10. Let's take this little small value, okay? Little smaller value. So let's change it to something like 3. Okay, so yeah, so now for the first case x was 1, right, and x was less than 3. So in this case hey gets printed. Okay, so the output, let me write the output here. Okay, so for x is equals to 1, hey gets printed on the screen. Okay, and the control and the execution goes to the next line because end line is used here. Okay, now again we come to the for loop only. Now what happens is, after hey gets printed, the incrementation takes place. So x becomes 2 now. Okay, so the value of x becomes 2 for the second case. Now again we check the condition whether x is less than 3. So x is again less than 3 because the value of x is 2 and 2 is less than 3. So again hey gets printed on the screen because there is only single statement, right, within the for loop. So hey gets printed on the screen and the value of x is incremented by 1, so it becomes 3. Okay, now for the third case it becomes 3. Okay, so now the value of x becomes 3. Okay, so now here the value of x will be 3. X is not less than 3 because 3 cannot be less than 3, right? 3 is equals to 3 obviously. Okay, but 3 is not less than 3. Okay, so this condition is false now. So now the program terminates and we get the output as hey and hey. Okay, let me take you to another screen. Okay, so let me take you another page. So here let me write that the same let me give you another example. Okay, let's say example 2. Okay, now let's say we write a for loop again for x. Let's say we have declared a variable x initially. If we haven't declared this variable, no problem, we can declare it within the for loop as well. So we'll write something like this. Okay, we'll write for int x is equals to 0. Okay, we can write the condition as x is less than equals to 5. Okay, we can increment it by 1 each time. You can also use, you can use multiple expressions. You can also write here something like x minus minus or x plus equals to 1, but it should terminate after some finite number of execution. Okay, it should be not, it shouldn't be it shouldn't be non-terminating. Okay, let's suppose I take something like this. So in this case only, okay, in this case if I write some for loop like this and inside this block I write some statement. Okay, so these statements are going to print infinite number of times. This is because, or are going to execute infinite number of times because the value of x was initially 0, and since x is less than equals to 5, we are reducing x by 1, so x now becomes some negative value which is minus 1. Okay, so x goes backwards, right, and it will never be less than or equal to 5 in that case. Sorry, it won't exceed the value of 5. Okay, so the loop is going to run infinite number of times and hence it becomes infinite loop, which is obviously a wrong practice. So we need to make sure that after some execution the loop terminates. Okay, so that we get the output. Okay, so now let's define this particular loop only. Okay, so let's remove this. Okay, let's remove this as well. Okay, so let's say we give it x as 0, x is less till x is less than equals to 5, which is the condition. Okay, what we do is we increment x each time. Okay, and what we do now is that okay, so within the for loop, let's say we try to print, we can also use if statements here. Okay, if statements here, if else, but I'm not trying to make it more complex right now. So let's say we try to print let's say the value of x. Okay, we try to print the value of x. Okay, x itself, and okay, so now what will be the output of this program? Okay, what will be the output of this program? So output now. Okay, let's see, let's dry run this code. Okay, this for loop. Okay, so for the first time x was 0, right, and the value of x is obviously less than or equal to 5, right? So x gets printed once. Okay, so x gets printed, so 0, and the execution goes to the next line because end line statement has been used. Okay, and now the value of x is incremented by 1, so x becomes 1 now. Okay, so this was the first case. Now x becomes 1. Okay, x becomes 1. Again the condition is checked. Okay, so x is again less than equals to 5, hence x again gets printed, so 1 gets printed now on the next line, and x gets incremented, so x becomes 2. Okay, through this statement. Now again the condition is checked, so x is again less than equals to 5, because 2 is less than equals to 5, right? So 2 also gets printed. Okay, and now x becomes 3. Okay, so x becomes 3, so now the condition is again checked, so 3 is also less than equals to 5, so this 3 gets printed, and the value of x gets incremented now, so it becomes 4 now. Okay, now again this is checked, this condition is checked, so 4 is also less than equals to 5, so in this case 4 gets printed, and the value of x gets incremented by 5, gets incremented by 1, which is that it becomes 5. Okay, so now again the condition is checked, and again the value of x, it is not less than but it is equals to 5, so the condition again satisfies, and again this statement gets printed, so 5 will get printed, and now the value of x becomes 6. Okay, so in the sixth case, in the fifth case, okay, like when the value of x becomes 6, it is neither less than nor equal to 5. Okay, so in this case this statement do not get do not get executed, and the loop terminates. Okay, so this will be the output of this program. Okay, now let me take you to this to the Visual Studio Code, and let's try to code. Okay, okay, so let me create a program here, so I'll give it for loop .cpp. Okay, so let me write the boilerplate code now. Okay, so let's say we write a code, let's say we write a for loop here. Okay, we give it a condition int x, let's say I take I here. Okay, I equals to, you can give any name to the variable. Let's say I take I initialize it with value 0. Okay, I is less than equals to 5. Okay, and I plus plus. Okay, don't forget to put these semicolons in between. Okay, like semicolon, then condition, and then semicolon, and then expression. Okay, there will be no semicolon after this. Okay, here we do not use semicolon now. Now finally, within the block of for loop, we'll write the statement. Let's say we'll print the variable itself. Okay, I and L. Okay, now let's make it more readable. So yeah, so now if we try to print, what we should get as the output, we should get 1 0 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, let's see what we get as the output. Yeah, so we got the output as 0 1 2 3 4 5, which is absolutely correct. Okay, so let's write another program. So if we have only a single statement, okay, within the for loop, we can also ignore these brackets. Okay, and we can just write the statement within the for loop. Okay, so this might work as well. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so because the scope of the for loop is till the next line. Okay, so this statement is considered as within the for loop only. Okay, when we do not enclose it within the curly bracket, right? So yeah, this is how the for loop work. Okay, now what we can do here is that we can write multiple statements as well within the for loop. Let's say for until the value of I reaches 5, or until the value of I is less than or equal to 5. Let's say we want to print hey. Okay, hey, this is fun. Let's say we want to print this statement this many number of times. So let's see. So hey, this is fun gets printed 6 times. So yeah, that was all about the for loop. Now let's get back to the screen, and let me tell you about the while loop now. Okay, so our second loop will be while loop. Okay, so while loop. Okay, so the syntax of while loop, okay, goes just like this. Okay, so the syntax will be while. Okay, then we write parenthesis. Within the parenthesis, we give a particular condition. Okay, until which the loop will run again and again. Okay, and within the block, now we can write some number of statements, okay, that are going to execute until the condition holds true. Okay, so let me give you an example. Okay, it is particularly used for the purpose where we need to do a particular, when we where we need to execute a particular statement again and again repeatedly. Okay, so uh, for example, let's say we declare an integer variable int x and we give it a value 0. Okay, now what we can do here is that, let's say we write a loop something like this: while x is less than 10, what we should do is that we should print x. Okay, x. Okay, and then, and we must give a we must give the expression within the while loop. In the for loop we used to give the expression in the third section, right, of the for loop, of the parenthesis, but here we'll give the condition within the while loop only. So let's say I give the condition x into equals to 3. I already told you about this operator. Okay, sorry, I already told you about this operator in the previous videos, right? If you do not know how to use this operator, you can watch the previous videos and then come to this while loop again. Okay, so x into equals to 3. Okay, and then we close this while loop. Okay, so what it does is, okay, so this thing is the condition, sorry, is the expression, okay, which will control the loop. Okay, and this is the condition which helps in terminating the loop after finite number of steps. Okay, so initially actually let's take the value of x as 1 initially, otherwise it is going to be an infinite loop. Okay, because it is always going to be 0 and it will never exceed the value 10. Okay, even if we multiply it with 3 infinite number of times. Okay, so let's take the value of x as 1. Okay, now let's try to dry run the code. Okay, so first, for the first case, the value, let's write the output here. Okay, output. So for the first case, the value of x is 1 initially. Okay, so what happens is x is less than 10, while x is less than 10, so 1 is less than 10 obviously, right, for the first case. So what happens is we print x. Okay, so let's say x was 1 initially, right, so 1 gets printed on the screen and the value of x becomes x into equals to 3. What it implies, it has the same definition as x equals to x into 3. Okay, so x was initially 1, so 1 into 3 becomes 3 only. So now the value of x becomes 3. Okay, now in the second case, x is 3, right, and it is still less than 10. Okay, we'll again come to the condition. So 3 is also less than 10, so 3 gets printed on the screen and obviously on the next line, because end line statement moves the execution to the next line. Okay, now again what happens is this expression is executed. So x becomes x into 3. Okay, which is 3. The earlier now the value of x was changed, right, so it was 3, so 3 into 3 is 9. Okay, so the value of x becomes 9. Okay, now again in the third case, let me erase this thing. Okay, okay, so in the third case, okay, again we'll check for the condition. So x is again less than 10, so x gets printed. Okay, and now x, again this statement is executed, so x becomes x into 3. So value of x was 9, so x becomes 9 into 3, which is 27. Okay, now when we again come to the loop, we see that 27 is not less than 10. Okay, so this is not, okay, this is false, so the loop terminates, and yeah, so this the program and then the program terminates, and this is what we receive as the output. Okay, let me write this code on the Visual Studio and let's test the output, okay, whether we are correct or not. So let me take you to the Visual Studio code now. Okay, so let's write the body of the while loop. Okay, so int x is equals to, let's say we give it a value 1. Okay, now we write the while loop. Okay, while Now within this parenthesis we'll write the condition, and this will be the block of the while loop. Okay, so here let's write the condition. So the condition was that while x was less than 10, okay, what we do here inside is that we print x, okay, and then we had this statement, right? This has the same definition, this has the same, okay, let me comment, this has the same meaning as x is equals to x into 3, right? Yeah, so yeah, so now if we execute this, so we get the output as 139. Okay, this was the same output that we got through the dry run of this while loop. Okay, so now we are left with only the do while loop. Okay, so what is a do while loop and why it is used? Okay, so let's see. Okay, now do while loop is special. Okay, why I'm saying so, let's see. So the syntax of do while loop looks something like this. Okay, so syntax of do while loop looks something like this. So we write do, then we write condition here. Okay, sorry, sorry, I forgot the thing. So what we do is we write do, and then we write a block, and within this block we write the statement that we want to be executed, statements. Okay, and then we write while. Okay, while, and then inside, after this while, we within the parenthesis we write the condition, and then we give the semicolon. Okay, don't forget to give the semicolon. Okay, so this is the complete syntax, or we can say skeleton, or the body of a do while loop. Okay, now what is special about the do while loop? Okay, so do while loop, the special thing about the do while loop, you can write this as the note as well. Okay, so the special thing is that it at least, okay, it at least executes one time. Okay, one time, even if the condition is not true. Okay, now what I'm trying to tell you is that, let me give you an example. Okay, let me give you an example. So let's say I write something like this. Okay, so I write do, what we'll do, we can write any statement. Let's say I write printing hey. Okay, inside this do statement. Okay, while x is less than let's say 10. Okay, and let's say we have defined the value of x as 11. Okay, so what happens is, I have said that it at least executes the do section in the do while loop. Okay, the do section, I forgot to mention this, the do section of the do while loop executes at least one times, even if the condition within the while loop is false. Okay, so here the condition is x is less than 10, but the value of x is 11, right? So the condition is false, but even then the execution takes, execution of do occurs. Okay, so what happens is, first the control comes to the do section. Okay, here this statement gets printed, hey gets printed. Okay, he gets printed, and then it checks whether the condition within the while, okay, I forgot to put the semicolon, whether the condition in the while section is true or not. Okay, so now we get the idea that the value of x was 11 and it was less than 10. Okay, it was not less than 10, so the loop terminates. Okay, and only hey, we get hey as the answer, hey as the output. Okay, we can, we have to give uh, the expression within the do section only. Okay, in order to control the loop execution. Okay, so let's try to code this program, and let's see the output. Okay, so let's get back to the Visual Studio Code. So let's say we gave the value of x as 11. Now do. Okay, so let's try to print here. Okay, and let's give the condition while x is less than 10. Okay, yeah, so let's try to print this. Let's see what it gives as the output. Okay, clear the terminal. Let's try to execute. So it gives hey as the output. Okay, and the next time it do not get printed because x was not less than 10, so the loop terminates, and hence we do not get the next the hey from the next line. Okay, if this would have been 1, and let's say I would have uh, you know written one more expression here, then what happens is, in this case, let's get back to the screen. So what I have done is that, let me take you to another page. Okay, so yeah, so what I've done is, do I've tried to print hey within the do block. Okay, and I've written one more expression, which is x into equals to 3. Okay, while while x is less than 10. Okay, and I've also given the value of x as 1. Okay, now what happens is, let's try run. Okay, let's write the output here. Okay, and let's check for the value of x here. Okay, so x was initially 1. Okay, so 1 is, the control goes to the do block. Okay, he gets printed. Okay, then x is multiplied by 3. Okay, so x into equals to 3 means x is equals to x into 3. Okay, so x was 1, so now x becomes 1 into 3, which is 3, so x becomes 3 now. Okay, so in the second part, x is now 3, right? So control again goes to the do block, and he gets printed again. Now the condition, now x becomes what? uh, okay, wait, we got confused. Okay, so in the first case, the value of x was 1. Okay, so within the the control goes to the do block, and he gets printed, and the value of x is incremented by 3, multiplied by 3. Okay, so it becomes 3 now, and 3 is less than 10, right? So again we go to the do block and we print the hey, and we again, the value of x again gets multiplied by 3, so it becomes 9 now. Okay, and 9 is again less than 10. Okay, so for the third case, again he gets printed. Okay, he gets printed, and now the value of x becomes 27. Okay, and now again when this condition is checked, this condition holds false, and hence the execution stops. Okay, so this is what we should get as the output. Let's see. Okay, there might be chances that I might be wrong here, but let's see what happens. So we get 3a. Okay, so we were correct. So yeah, that was all about the loops in C++. You can have fun, you can like test your knowledge by writing multiple if else statements or conditional expressions within the loops as well. Okay, that might help you in getting a better understanding of how these loops work. Okay, so yeah, that was all about this this video, and let's hope to meet you in the next one.